Welcome, sisters, to another episode of My Sister Shoulders Kitchen Table Talks. I am your host, Dr. Jacqueline Jarl, along with your other host, Miss Olivia Cream. For today, we are going to be talking about the current trend in the workplace. All right, we have seen some significant changes for both on the recruiting end and what is happening in corporations. Before that, though, I just want to make sure, because I have come across this again with some of my clients, I want to make sure that everyone is equipped and protecting yourself when it comes to your financials. Okay, and I'll give a couple examples of what I have seen. And unfortunately, it keeps happening to women. Okay, the worst ends of all the financial deals keep falling on women. So I want to make sure that everybody can protect themselves from a financial perspective. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean to protect yourself? It means having your own money. Okay, it means having a bank account or multiple bank accounts, whether it's retirement, whether it's a brokerage account or checking or a high yield savings account with only your name on it. This is regardless of whether you're married or single, or maybe you have a domestic partner for however many years, okay? Here are some of the stories and examples, okay? These are real life examples that I have seen in I would say the last 5 years. I have seen a couple of 20 plus years. Shared accounts, everything shared accounts. The husband is having an affair with somebody, unbeknownst to the wife. Obviously, the wife doesn't know the person. And the husband goes ahead and buys another house with this said other person.
Say what now?
Yes, buys another house
I'm
using
already mad.
one of their joint accounts with the wife, okay? This happened. This is what happens when you don't have your own money, okay? So that's one example. Now, obviously, she got good lawyers. She ended up, getting the money back because it's marital money that he used to buy that property. So she ended up getting the property back, but not after several years in court. Okay. So again, protect yourself, right? Don't leave yourself to the mercy of the court, right? To decide whether or not that money belongs to you.
Especially these days, might I add. I'm just
Yes.
going to throw that
Yep.
little nugget in, especially the way things are going these days.
Yep. 100%. Another example, wife, husband, married, two grown kids, out of college, one in college, one out of college. So again, this is a 20 plus year marriage. The wife spent essentially, so they both earned money. They both had their own money, but the wife used her money to pay for all of the expenses of the relationship, right? Mortgage, groceries, whatever else they had. The husband was in charge of investing for their future. Okay. The husband now, right? They're now in a divorce proceeding, and the husband's lawyer has said that, oh, well, that's all of his money that went into the investments. That's all for him. Okay, so they're trying to leave her with nothing. Again, this is going to be going to court, right? So because it's not in her name, it's in his name. Okay, so that's, please, if it doesn't matter if you're, again, married or if you're in a long-term relationship, I think they call them like civil unions, right? Common law marriage,
Common law.
and things like that. Like, please make sure you guys can have a joint account. I know a lot of people believe in joint accounts. I personally do not. But a lot of people believe in joint accounts, which is fine. However, your joint account should really only have the money you need to pay for expenses. All the rest of your money, your own money that you've earned, right, should go into an account with only your name on it. I mean, I've even seen, this is like way back when I was a kid, I've even seen people with joint accounts. This is my mother's generation, right? Like her friends came crying to her And as a kid, I heard this where they were in a joint account, and when the husband decides that he no longer wanted to be in this relationship, emptied out the joint account and left, and just left. Okay, and left the wife with nothing. But the mortgage is still in her name, right? It's still a joint mortgage and everything. So it doesn't matter, be like, oh, that's never gonna happen to me. Like I hear that so much. When things are good is when you need to prepare for when things might go bad. Okay, so I know a lot of people don't believe in prenups, but prenups are so important. Okay, prenups don't just protect the rich. Okay, they protect the integrity of the relationship, and it's a written agreement on what to do if something were to go bad. Okay, so postnups actually too, right? If you don't have a prenup and you're married and you're like, oh, I probably should, put some measures in to protect myself. Like if you had a child and you gave up your career to take care of your children, like there should be an agreement somewhere between you and your husband on how to divide assets if something were to happen, right? If you were to break up, okay? And like you can do a postnup, like that's a thing. Okay. Melania Trump did it, right? When Trump got elected the first time around, she wouldn't move into the White House until they redid the prenup. Okay. So protect yourself from things that might happen that are outside of your control. All right.
Yeah. And to round this
Yeah.
out, ladies, I don't want you to feel like this is like the JJ Olivia feminist show. This is not what it is at all. Both of us have great spouses. We love them to death. We're not saying that, men are bad and they're going to leave you broken and all these things. All we're saying is in every area of your life, you should expect the best, but plan for the worst, right? And we hope that this advice never needs the situations in your life never take you to a place where you need this advice, but the reality is it happens way more often than you would think. And so the best thing is to just think about it on the front end, right? And if your spouse gets really upset with you for trying to have this conversation or trying to say, hey, I'd like to structure the finances in this way, I'm sorry, but it's a little bit of a red flag, right? If you can articulate your why, like, hey, this makes sense, to make sure there's no confusion, we're still taking care of the house bills, you can contribute to that joint account like JJ's talking about. Everybody contributes. You tally up your bills, and this is a good exercise to do anyways, frankly, is to tally up your bills, see how much you owe whatever external entity monthly, and then split that in half. And then you guys put whatever is needed into that joint account to cover those bills so everybody's paying equally. If that upsets your spouse, I need you to really take a step back and ask yourself why. Right. So one, it's a good exercise for you to know anyways. And two, I think if you're afraid of your spouse responding negatively, that's probably something else that should tip you off to look a little bit deeper to figure out why this is such a sticking point for them. At the end of the day, what we don't want to happen is, love is what it is, right? It's good today. It could be bad tomorrow. That is not a cynical view. That's just a realistic view. And you don't want to be face down in a ditch after working for 40 years, anticipating retirement. And now because of someone else's stupid decisions, you're starting all over. Please, please don't put yourself in that kind of risk.
Yeah. And if you happen to be a man and you found our podcast or found our video cast, this happens to you too. We have a shared best friend, one of our very good friends who is a male who this just happened to. Okay, so it does also happen to men, but the majority of the time it happens to women simply because we don't make this is market data, right? Women still make less than men, and most of the time women are the ones who give up their careers to take care of children. Okay, so this is why it's still happening more to women than it is to men, but it does also happen to men. All right, but again, regardless of your gender, your race, your ethnicity, your age, you need to protect yourself with money that only you can control. Okay, and if you, for some reason, do happen to find yourself in one of these situations, just reach out to us. Please don't go at it alone. Okay. Please reach out to us. We will help you. This is what, My Sister Shoulders is for. Okay. It's to support each other so that we can live better lives. All right. So anyway, enough on that. I feel like that was the doom and gloom.
Lady Debbie Downer there, JJ.
Yes, but it's just I feel like with all the economic uncertainty, I get so worried for people, right? That don't have their own money or that have not protected themselves throughout their relationships because I see clients that come to me and are like, this is what's happening, right? And
100%.
coworkers, like the first example that I gave was one of my colleagues that happened, and I was like, what? Like, if you can think of it, like it's happened before, right? So please protect yourself. Anyway, all right, moving on to state of the current labor market. I'm gonna throw this over to Olivia to talk about what we are currently seeing as far as recruiting, right? As far as companies doing layoffs, so many layoffs. I feel like every day I'm reading an article about some big company doing another layoff of 30% of their workforce, right? The government or whoever. So Olivia, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah. So if you are job hunting right now, you definitely are feeling that there's been a shift in the winds. Okay. What used to work in terms of, applying on LinkedIn, reaching out, doing a personal touch, trying to get somebody to advocate for you, it is just not working anymore. And what the SHRM data is showing is specifically women and minorities are feeling this the absolute most. And what they're attributing it to is a lot of companies, you guys, like I kid you not, go do this research yourself. A lot of companies are actively watching their DEI metrics, but not in the way that you think. They actually don't want their DEI metrics to go up because of the current state of what's happening politically right now. So literally you have qualified Black and brown men and women, but we're specifically talking about the women here because you got the double whammy of being a minority and the whammy of your gender. And companies are just ghosting these folks because they don't want their DEI metrics to go up because they don't want to explain away some kind of database based wokeness. And like, you guys don't even get me started with that word, because if you ask 17 people what wokeness means, you will get 17 different answers. And I just cannot. But the reality is, it is impacting hiring trends. Now, as Jacqueline alluded to, on top of that, because of the economic uncertainty, specifically here in the US, you're seeing a couple different trends, right? One, people are afraid of these tariffs that are happening that's impacting our manufacturing sectors like you would not believe. And so hiring has slowed, and worse, in some industries, we're seeing massive layoffs. In the tech industries, massive layoffs. We're seeing, automation. AI is taking, is having a place to play in all of this, where companies that are early adopters that think, oh, I can just cut, a third of my workforce and just have AI automate this work. The whole nother topic on whether that is going well or not, but it's happening. People are testing the waters. And unfortunately, it's the employees that are bearing the brunt of this experiment. Frankly, it's an experiment. So let me just tell you, there are there's 6 trends that I just want to detail out here for our audience. And this is specific to Black and brown women in the workforce. So data from the US Bureau of Labor and Statistics shows that Black and Hispanic women have relatively high labor force participation rates compared to other women. Do not get excited yet. However, what is persistent is that the gaps still remain in employment quality and earnings. So that means that Black and brown women tend to occupy most of the jobs on the lower end of the spectrum, those administrative jobs, those early career jobs. those jobs that are like in healthcare or retail on the lower end of the spectrum is predominantly where our women are sitting, right? So that leads to wage gaps and job quality issues. So we continue to earn less than our white and Asian counterparts. The wage gap persists even when you think about how highly educated, literally go look at the data. Black women tend to be the most educated and are starting companies at exponential rates. However, we're still earning less because of things like we don't negotiate our salaries and we're just happy to have the job. But layer on top of those type of things, what's happening from a DEI perspective, it's making it even worse. Okay. Also, occupational segregation. This is one that I found to be interesting. So, our sisters remain strongly concentrated in a limited range of occupations, often in healthcare support. Okay, so we're not talking doctors, surgeons, we're talking about healthcare support, retail, hospitality, and administrative work. That also makes us more vulnerable during economic downturns and technology driven changes. So, everything that I just told you about what the companies are doing to protect themselves from tariffs and what they're doing in terms of early adoption of AI is hitting our group harder than most because of the jobs that we tend to predominantly occupy. So, I'm sharing this with you to say a couple things. One, if you're hunting for a job, you're not crazy. It is rough out there. So, as JJ and I continue to educate everyone on taking a good look at what's going on in your workplace. Can you succeed there? Do you have allies? Does your boss's boss advocate for you? What is your brand? Are you negotiating your salary? And if things aren't looking up and on the up and up, you should be thinking about your exit strategy. We still encourage you to take that advice. However, I think what I would shift in my coaching due to the circumstances that we're all playing in right now is you better be sure, right? And if you're going to jump from where you are today, that you have something lined up before you take the jump. The days of rage quitting and just being like, it's an employee's market, folks, that those days are over, at least for right now. It is not an employee driven market anymore. It was, I would say, maybe right before COVID and even through COVID, it was definitely an employee driven market. You could hop somewhere else, you could double, triple your salary. It was easier to find jobs. There were more jobs than there were people looking. The coin has flipped. Okay. So now there are more job seekers than people doing hiring for a number of factors that we already discussed. So if things are not good and you feel like you're in a toxic environment, I would do the double take to ask yourself a couple questions. One, have you tried all the tactics that we've taught you that we'll continue to talk about to try to improve your situation? What's your brand with your boss's boss, right? You can work around your boss if it's just a singular human making your life difficult and your brand is good across your organization. Maybe the answer is to shift business units. Maybe the answer is to shift functions. Maybe the answer is to go to another division still within the same company versus looking externally. If those options are not available to you and you do need to look externally, I highly recommend that you seek help by getting someone to review your resume, getting someone to optimize your LinkedIn. You start networking on LinkedIn. And let me just say this, nothing like aggravates me more than a request from someone that I do not know for help in my DMs that has never commented on a post, never said, hey, Olivia, how are you? But comes out of the woodwork, hey, can you help me? No, ma'am, I absolutely cannot. I do not have time for this, right? So don't do that to people. Build relationships and work your way out, like build the plan and work your way out versus the rage quitting and dumping and thinking you can figure it out. It's becoming more and more difficult to do that. JJ,
Yeah,
what are you seeing?
I'm going to comment a little bit on the networking piece. And I know I've said this several times over the years, ever since I was in military recruiting and I was, because I think veterans specifically are very bad at networking.
Yes.
Like networking isn't reaching out to someone and asking them for a job. That is not networking. Okay. And I personally, because I was in that role for about 4 years, I personally still have people reach out to me that I met when I was on the recruiting trail. Now it's been what, 3 years now? 3 years ago, right? After I took this new HR job, I still have people reach out to me and say, hey, we met in, let's say 2021, has not reached out to me since 2021, and then sends me a random email and says, I saw this job on the website. Could you, send my resume to the recruiter, or could you send my resume to the hiring manager? No. Like, first, right? It's like, what happened to the last 3 years? The last 4 years, right? Like, it's like networking is building a relationship. It is not simply using people who you know to get you a job. That is not networking. That is just using people, right?
Yes.
And most people will not respond to you when you do that. Okay. So you have to build a relationship with those individuals. And then when you need the help, you already have this relationship to be like, hey, I'm in this spot, right? I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. Like, do you think you could help me? Or do you have any advice? Right. And things like that. Okay. So it's an overtime thing. It's not a one-time like, oh, I saw this job and this person also works at that company. Let me just send them a message and see if they can help me. Like, they're not going to help you. Right.
Yes.
But yes, 100%. Like the whole like rage quit thing, like please don't do that. Okay. But like I understand that sometimes, one thing really upsets us and things like that. I would say the only people who are eligible who can, right, rage quit right now is if you have over 6 months of expenses saved up in your emergency fund or in your, in whatever fund. And I'm not talking about taking money out of your investments, right? Because you really should not be doing that. That's just the compounding effect of taking money out of investments. You're not setting yourself up for future success in retirement or whatever, right? If you have 6 months of money saved up, it might take you until if you quit now, right? It might take you until 2026 to find a job. 100%.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
100%. And I
Yeah.
would add that Q3 and Q4 are the worst time.
Yes.
Because
Because
companies.
yes, like originally, without all the tariff stuff, without all the economic uncertainty, Q3 and Q4s are generally the times that companies are cutting back on their spending because they're trying to hit their number, right? And get that good earnings per share, right? For Wall Street. Okay. So like all the travel cuts, all the, and the number one thing that they cut is recruiting, right? Because that's literally just the fastest way, because not only are you spending money on recruiting, but you're spending new money that you're not currently spending by bringing in new people into the company, right? So it's almost like a double whammy to hire people Q3 and Q4, and you're not going to get any real productivity, right, out of those individuals that you bring in Q3 and Q4 because they still have to onboard, right? So you're not going to see a lot of benefits by bringing in employees Q3 and Q4. So again, under normal circumstances, companies are already cutting headcount in Q3 or delaying, I should say, right? Delaying it into Q1 and or Q2. And then now with all the tariffs and all that stuff, like companies are paying billions of dollars in tariffs right now, billions of dollars. Okay. And like, where do you think that money's going to come from? Like they're going to cut headcount, and they might even start doing, they have already started doing layoffs, right? This is why like we keep seeing these layoff news articles and announcements. It's partly because of AI. Yes, right? All the tech companies are like, AI can write my code, or AI can do this, AI can do that, okay, fine, whatever. If that's what you think, it is. But a lot of it is because of the economic uncertainty, because of the tariffs, right? And like it's hitting companies every single day. And they have to make up that money somewhere, and it's most likely going to come from fixed costs, which is headcount. Yeah.
Yeah, and when JJ says fixed costs, guys, I just want you to understand what she's saying. Your head count is typically the largest lever on your P&L. People are expensive, right? And I don't want, we're telling you guys these things because I think, especially when you're more junior in your career or you're early in your career, you think, oh, my company loves me and loyalty. At the end of the day, it's still a business, and people are the most expensive part of running the business. So when push comes to shove and the business has to protect itself, and if it's you or if it's them, guess what it's going to be? It's going to be you every time, my love. And it's not personal. You can get mad at that if you want. You can rage about it if you want, but it is not personal. It's business. And you have to understand the way business works and your part to play in it so you don't get distracted by some of these clever HR traps, right? With culture and pizza parties and, learn about your strengths and this, that, and the other.
Yep.
All of that is great. But at the end of the day, if push comes to shove and the company is in danger of not hitting its numbers or not hitting its EBITDA target or not hitting whatever, they absolutely will look to reduce headcount. It just is what it is. So to JJ's point, honestly, I wouldn't even feel comfortable at 6 months at this point. Like
Yeah.
it is rough out in these streets. I would say you need a year's worth for me to be, but I'm a little bit, risk adverse. So I'm gonna go a little bit longer. But if it's not that long, and or you have a profitable side hustle that you can pivot into and pour your effort into that to make ends meet in addition to the 6 months, right? I'm saying in addition. So if you have 6 months and an active side hustle, God bless, because we also don't want you guys burning out and getting migraines and developing fibroids and all the things that JJ and I have been through. We understand it takes a toll on your health as well, but just make sure, again, it's kind of the theme of protect yourself. This is how to protect yourself in the workplace, is to make sure you have a plan and to make sure you understand your battlefield, right? Everything that JJ and I are sharing with you in terms of the state of the workforce, in terms of protecting yourself, it may seem like doom and gloom, but what we're helping you do is survey your battlefield, because too many of us don't love to look at the field that we're playing in and then we step in a bear trap, right? Let's not do that. Let's just understand the reality of our situation and plan for an outcome that doesn't result in you face down in a ditch.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is what I always tell my clients. Like, understand how the game is played, right? You wouldn't open a game of Monopoly and just start playing it without reading the rules. Okay? The rules have changed for the workforce. The rules have changed if you're looking for a new job right now. Okay? So make sure that before you go out and play this game, right? And throw your dice and whatever, you're reading the new rules. Okay, that you're familiarizing yourself on how the rules have changed, so that you can have the best outcome and not put yourself in a situation where now not only are you stressed about your job, now you're stressed about your financials as well, right? Because maybe you rage quit and didn't have enough savings and things like that. So make sure, again, protecting yourself obviously is a work over time, right? So in order for you to build up, maybe if you're like, oh shoot, I'm in a really bad position, right? Where it's maybe my boss doesn't like me or whatever, toxic environment, right? Bad company, then you probably need to beef up that savings. You probably need to beef up your emergency account, okay? Your emergency fund. Okay. And like, think about ways that you can do that. What can you cut, right? Maybe it's a Netflix subscription. Maybe it's something else, to beef up
Maybe
that
it's the
emergency fund.
pay to play
Pay
services
now,
like
buy now, pay later.
that.
Yes. Buy now, pay later.
Stop doing that, you guys. If you were
Yes.
doing, stop it right now. If you were using that buy now, pay later, first of all, the interest rates are absolutely ridiculous on those
Yep.
things. Second of all, if you have to buy now, pay later, you cannot afford it.
You
Please
cannot
stop.
afford it. Yeah.
Please stop it.
And I just made a post about this on JJ's coaching services. It is now, FICO is now taking buy now, pay later into your credit score. Okay. So every time you click on that, four payments at 0% interest, okay? Now it's like you're taking out a new line of credit and it's going to destroy your credit score. And if you miss one payment for whatever reason, it is going to destroy you financially. Okay, like this is how they, like, if they don't make money, they wouldn't be doing it, right? Oh, but I hear so many people say this, it's 0% interest rate. Trust me, if they're not making money, they would not be providing this service. Okay. I think I read, I was listening to a podcast, and don't quote me on this number, so like do your own research on this, but I think they said it was a super high number, like 60% of people who do buy now, pay later miss payments. Okay. And the majority of the people who do buy now, pay later overspend
Weird.
because, right, they're like, oh, it's just $25. So even if you're tracking your expenses like on a month to month, right? I tell people, hey, you need to know exactly where your money is going. Even if you're tracking it, because it's such a small number, most people won't even put it in their tracker, right? Oh, it's $25 a month. And then guess what? For $25 a month later, now you've overspent $100 and you miss a payment. And once you miss a payment, they hammer you on the interest rate once you, like, that's how they make the money, right?
Yeah.
Is the missed payments. So yes, please stop doing that. Please stop doing that. Okay. You absolutely, if you cannot buy it in full, you cannot afford it. Okay. Just don't do it, right? All the money, don't give the banks more money. Don't give the whoever is, running these, I think it's like Klarna is one of them, and there's some other
Yeah.
ones, but like, don't make them rich, because that's literally what they're doing. They're becoming rich off of you. All right. So again, this is
It's
another
predatory.
way to
100%.
protect yourself financially, is if you want something, make sure you have the money in full. Beyonce tickets, whatever it is, right? I mean, I just saw the Beyonce thing, because apparently something didn't work and she almost fell out of a car. Yeah, it was like, I was
Sorry,
like,
what?
oh, okay. She was like floating midair, and then the car that she was sitting in, that's like held together by cables, started tilting. There was like some tech malfunction. Yep. And then she was like singing her song, and she's like, stop. Yeah. I mean, it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, it was rough. Anyway, yeah. So if you want to do something like that, these are what we consider luxuries in life, right? They're not the basic necessities like food, shelter. If you want to go for a luxury item, this includes a car, right? You need to pay for it in full. If you want to buy that G-Wagon, make sure you have that cash payment for that G-Wagon. Don't be taking out a loan on a car, okay? It's a depreciating asset. You're going to owe more than what the loan is actually worth. All right. Okay. Sorry, we've went off on a tangent here.
Total tangent.
Went off on a tangent.
Total tangent.
All right. Anything else that we should be bringing awareness to our sisters regarding the current workforce, the state of the workforce?
Yeah, I want to leave people, you guys know me well enough to know that I'm going to give you the doom and gloom. Even though I don't see it that way, I just see it as reality, right? It's just reality. But I want to give you some practical tips to survive. And JJ, I'd like some of your tips as well. So if you are sitting in a toxic workplace, or if you are sitting in a workplace where you feel like your manager hates you, or your manager is a narcissist, or your manager micromanages you, and you're like, oh my God, I don't have 6 months worth of savings built up yet. Notice I said yet, because we're going to work on that. Or I don't have a side hustle that can supplement that to make me feel comfortable in leaving. What can you do today? I'm going to give you some tips for how to survive a toxic environment until you get to a place where you can pivot, or you can find something else within your company, or whatever the case may be. First things first is document everything. Okay, so if your boss is the perpetrator, you need to document everything. And when I say document everything, this is what I mean. You need to understand clearly, it's mid-year, right? Have that mid-year check-in with your manager, and don't have it be a one-way conversation. Ask them, what do you expect me to deliver between now and the end of the year? What does success in my role, use these words, what does success in my role look like between now and year end? Get it in writing, you guys, okay? Every time, so that's tip number one. Document what success looks like, get it in writing. If you guys use Workday or some other kind of HR management system, make sure it's loaded in there so everybody's aligned that this is what the expectations are from your manager, okay? If it's a verbal conversation, make sure you follow up with an email saying, hey, so-and-so manager, thanks for your time. Here's what I understood from our conversation. Please correct anything that I may have wrong here. I want to ensure that we're aligned and that I understand your expectations so I can deliver in this role. Okay, get it in writing. Secondly, obviously, we know we have our annual goals, but other things come up as part of our day-to-day job that our managers are going to ask us to do. Don't let anything just be a phone call. Text counts as documentation so long as you save your text, right? But if something comes through and you're not super sure about what this means or what success looks like, or, what does crushing this task look like, ask. Get clarity. Clarity is a two-way street. So if you're sitting there and you're like, man, Barbara just told me to do X, but I don't really know what she means, send her an email and say, hey, can you help me understand what success looks like here? Is it a metric? Is it a time frame? Like what specifically do you need from me? Toxic managers and toxic environments in general thrive in ambiguity. You guys, they thrive in ambiguity, because then that way someone can say to you, like, oh, you didn't do this based on my expectations, when the expectations weren't clear or weren't written down, or it was a phone call and you have no ability to challenge that. And I'm just going to tell you, HR is going to side with them. I hate to say it, but HR is going to side with them. So this is back on the trend of protect yourself by getting these things in writing. Okay. If your manager comes at you sideways, is aggressive with you, says something demeaning, runs a joke at your expense, you hear that they say something negative to a peer or someone, and somebody doubles back and tells you, go to HR immediately. Immediately, to protect yourself. Okay. You don't want to keep those things a secret. And you better believe, if you feel like your manager is trying to force you out of the organization, they are documenting. So you better document too. Okay. If you guys need more advice on how to manage that and how to manage your mental health through that, please reach out. And I actually just forgot one last thing that is super important. Please, please, please stop overperforming for love. Okay. No matter what you do in this situation, if your manager sounds like the one that I just described to you, they are not going to care. They are never going to love you. Okay. You are not the chosen one for whatever reason. It happens to all of us. It's not a big deal. It really isn't. But stop giving 175% to someone that isn't giving you 10% in return. Remember, you are the asset. So if you have someone that is treating you this way, that's your direct supervisor, you do your job, you log off when you're supposed to log off, you log on when you're supposed to log on, and that is it. They get just the letter of the law from you, and you use the rest of your mental capacity and emotional capacity to find your way out of this situation. Do not perform for love, because you will never get it. I promise you, you're just going to burn yourself out. JJ, anything I missed?
Not miss, but I would just like to double click on the HR will side with HR is here to protect the company. Okay, I mean, as much as companies are saying that, the people, and they're not here to protect you. Okay, so in a situation like this, where if your manager really is trying to push you out or performance manage you for whatever reason, it might not actually be your performance. They just don't want you in this role. Like, HR is working with them on that. Okay, so even if unless it was something like Olivia said, right, where it's literally like, hey, demeaning, right, and things like that, like, you need to go tell that to HR. But outside of that, like, HR will not, they're not on your side. Okay, I'll just say it that way. All right, so I don't want you to think that, like, oh, well, if I go to HR, they'll protect me. They will not protect you. Best scenario is they'll give you, they'll make you sign a "you cannot sue us" letter and give you some money to make you go away. Best case scenario, right? So, but you're still out of a job. And depending on how long you've spent at that company, right, you're out all of those years of tenure. So just be aware of that. Again, it's just business. It's not personal. It's just business, right? They're trying to run a profitable business. The other part that I wanted to mention is, I know Olivia said, okay, if you don't have 6 months of savings right yet, and you do need to get out of this situation, there are a lot of things that you can do to bridge that gap. Okay, like if the situation is so bad and so toxic, and maybe it's destroying your mental health, and you're like, hey, I just like, it's not rage quitting, but I really do need to just quit because it's literally destroying me at the core, right? And it happens, like I've seen it, right? That's fine, but I would say you probably need to try a couple things out immediately before you drop that resignation letter to make sure that it's going to work, right? Like I can tell you right now, I had a bad stint over my career in corporate, and I actually ended up, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my mind off things. I'm going to go do something else, right? To put my energy somewhere else. And I became a hostess for a local like restaurant, like to make money, right? And to see if this was doable. Be like, all right, if I had to for whatever reason, right? Could I make additional income on the side, right? Because at that, this was years ago, like maybe 8, 9 years ago. Um,
I feel
at
like I
that
remember
time,
this stint.
yeah, yes, it was when when I first moved to Texas, and like I didn't know anyone, the culture was different, right? So it was like a lot of different things, like bad manager, like all of the things came together, right? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna try and see if I can make money on the side, like outside of corporate. So the only thing that I knew, I was like, well, maybe I just, go and see if I can go be a hostess, at a restaurant. And I actually was just like driving by one of the shopping centers, and I saw a for hire sign. I was like, why not? Right. So I went in, talked to the assistant manager, and she's like, okay, can you start, whenever? And of course, most of the people who worked there were like high school people. And I brought in this like experience that they have never had before. So they were like, loved me, gave me free meals and like all of these things, which, me and food, like, because at that time, this is before I met Craig, and like, nobody, like I didn't have somebody to make food for me. So you have to do that, right? You have to be like, all right, this is where you potentially start a side gig, but it takes time to start your own business, right? So you have to be like, what else can I do to make money to bridge this gap, right? There are a lot of different things that you can do that don't require you to start your own business. For example, you speak English, you can teach English online, right? You literally, there's several different platforms. You can literally sign up and you make like, I think it's $20 to $25 an hour. And you can work as many hours as you want. Okay. And it's literally because it's people from overseas that are, and sometimes it's kids, sometimes it's adults trying to have business conversations, right? And usually those business conversations, which everyone who's watching this should be more equipped to do business conversations in English. You make more money with these business conversations, right? So that's one thing, right? I mean, obviously there are a lot of different ways that you can make money nowadays, through online, through whatever. So before you quit, before you drop that notice, make sure you have that set up. And it's not hard to do, right? You literally just sign up online, or you go like local, or like maybe you'd be like, all right, like dentist office or something, right? Like, okay, can I work here part-time, just checking people in for 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, right? Or something like that, right? You would almost have a better chance looking for something locally than you would like applying online to a different job. Just to bridge the gap. Obviously, you're still applying online to get a full-time job, but to bridge that gap, if you don't have the savings, I mean, even if you do have the savings, you really should also be doing this anyway, because you don't know how long you're going to be unemployed, right? So it's always better to have more money and not need it, right, than to run out of money. And also it just takes your mind away from, oh, like no one's hiring me, no one, right? Like when you keep your mind busy, it's better than always thinking about like doom and gloom and and things like that. So if you are in a situation where you're like toxic, like can't wait, like must quit as soon as possible, go ahead and look into some of those side hustle opportunities that are online, to see, right, like that, to make sure that you have money to bridge that gap. and to add to your savings, right? To make sure that you can last through the amount of unemployment, the number of months that you're going to be unemployed. And just know that most of the time, if you quit yourself, you're not eligible for unemployment. Okay,
Oh, good point.
unless it's like for disability, you know, or whatever. But if you just resign, you are not eligible to receive unemployment. Okay, so just make sure that you're aware of that. But that's really all I have. Again, I think the theme, right, is all about protecting yourself today. So whether that's in your relationships or whether that's at your job, at your corporation, you never want to put yourself in a situation where somebody else's decision is going to destroy everything that you have built for yourself. Okay, so that is so, so important. Any last words, Olivia?
Yeah, I think lastly, as we wrap here, ladies, I'm just going to leave you with, a closer about mindset. Everything that JJ just spoke to you about in terms of what you can do to bridge the gap is very intentional. Don't let yourself fall into the woe is me. Here are the 95 things that I can't do. Even if there are a million things you can't do, there are two things that you can. Focus on that because you know how your brain works. And if you keep feeding your brain, we're going to make it. We just need to figure out how to do this thing. Your brain will be your biggest ally in figuring that out. So, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you at the next Sister Circle.
Awesome. Don't forget to subscribe if this content has been useful for you. We'll see you next time. Bye.